Good evening, everybody. How are we all feeling? And well done for getting in today. I think that's so amazing work on getting through all the roadworks, finding a bike, walking, how have you got here? Thank you very much. My name is Tim Flagg. I'm the Chief Executive of UKAI. I'm not going to say many words today because this really isn't about us. It's about our amazing guest speaker today. And I'd just like to thank Ashurst as well for hosting us. Ashurst are a member of UKAI and have really been supporting our vision for a responsible AI industry. So I'd like to pass over to Amanda Ludlow to come and say a few words on behalf of Ashurst before we introduce our guests. Thank you. Amanda, over to you.
So clearly I'm vertically challenged, so I'm not going to try and stand behind that lectern, am I? You'll never see me. Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Ludlow. I'm a partner here at Ashurst. I'm also the head of our digital economy team and practice, which actually means we do a lot in the AI space on a day-to-day basis. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight. We welcome you on behalf of the whole of Ashurst. Nice to see some of my team here. Thank you. We're also really proud to support this important conversation with you, Dawn. We really applaud your work in AI in particular, obviously, that we keep a close eye on, but also everything else that you stand for. We find you truly inspirational. And I think a lot of your messages resonate very deeply with our own values here at Ashurst. We really believe in deploying AI safely. It's something that we work really hard to support, particularly our clients who are navigating really complicated legal and regulatory landscapes. They're also trying to get everything right. They're also trying to align with global standards, best practices. It's no mean feat to kind of get it all right first time. So we do work hand in glove with people along the way. We're also really proud to help our clients in their strategic AI directions. And we've been focusing on certain sectors of the economy, things like rail, infrastructure, fin services, and tech. They're all industries that we know a lot about, and so we feel that we can contribute well in relation to AI. We're also really proud to be a founding law firm member of UKAI and their legal working group. And we really relish the chance to shape the frameworks that will guide responsible innovation in the UK and hopefully beyond. Our practice is really grounded in a whole-of-market approach. We think this gives us unique insights into the risks and opportunities that our clients face when it comes to AI. I am losing my voice. We also span the ecosystem of AI. So we work we work from sort of cradle to grave. We work with data center development. We work on digital infrastructure that fuels AI growth. That's my own personal sort of area of work. And around the world, we advise on AI investments and even just the procurement of AI systems. And very excitingly, our risk team advises on enterprise risk management and AI governance, which is super, super important. And we also use it. So we're really proud to be the first international law firm to roll out a legal sector-focused Gen AI platform. Over 70% of our people now use it in their daily work, including me. And we're super committed to sharing our learnings about AI. And to that end, we've got a number of reports around the place here that you should pick up. This one is the latest. It talks about navigating the legal landscape of AI in Australia. Yes, it's about Australia, but it's got some really interesting things to say that I think resonate across the globe. We did it in we were sponsored by Google, so we've had some really interesting insights from some of the hyperscalers when we prepared it. Anyway, we are delighted to be part of this conversation. Welcome, Dawn. Welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoy the hospitality that we have to offer tonight.
Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. And thank you for making the time and also in attending this In Conversation with series with no other person but the amazing Dawn Butler. We want to start off by maybe just sort of signposting people where things are. There's no fire alarm set, because if the fire alarm goes on, there's definitely a fire alarm. You need to leave your stuff and move out. Don't think anything at all. If you do want refreshments are outside. So please feel free to go and pick up when you do need it. But obviously make sure that we've got quite a few people around. You're not making a lot of noise in terms of going to pick up stuff. And then if you want to use the ladies or the gents, please just ask outside and you'll be shown where those, where the gents and the ladies are. My name is Fatima Kamara. I am a nurse by profession. I work as a NHS management executive. I am also the chair for 1987 committee, and I also was a parliamentary candidate for the last elections. So myself and my amazing co-host here, Jovan Osuwu-Nepaul, will be interviewing Dawn Butler. I'll tell you a bit about Jovan. Jovan was also a parliamentary candidate in Clacton-on-Sea, so he stood against Nigel Farage for the Labour Party. He's also a co-host of a podcast called What's Left. He's a campaigner and also he's a very keen activist in terms of getting young people engaged within politics and the political atmosphere. On that note, I want to say again, good evening and welcome. We are in a law firm, in case you're not aware. Obviously, you've heard about the AI and the amazing work that Ashurst are doing, and also in terms of hosting us. Let's just make a compact to be in terms of curiosity, courage, and also generosity as well. Today, this evening, it's not about headlines. It's about a person, the principles, her values, and also to explore the roots and purpose and truth and leadership that Dawn Butler MP brings to us within the Labour Party. So on that note, I would want us to join and welcome very warmly Dawn Butler MP.
Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you, Dawn, for your time in having this conversation with us. I wanted to just probe a little bit, and I would like you to paint me a picture of the younger Dawn in your formative years, leading up to your teen years as well. Paint us a picture about how you grew up and all of that.
Younger Dawn. So I'd say I was what they would call a tomboy. I grew up with 4 brothers and I was a daddy's girl. So there was nothing I couldn't do. Basically, you know, I would just follow my dad around. The first chapter in my book is called Cockroaches Don't Fly. And what had happened was when I was in primary school, so when you used to go to school, they used to like have children at the front of the class and say, what did you do in summer? Right. So in this particular time, I went up, you know, to the front of the class. I think I must have been, you know, I was under 7, so probably 6 or something. And I said, I went to Jamaica and I saw a cockroach that flew. And the teacher said to me, stop lying. And I was like, and I was so confused because I'm just a kid. And it was a very scary thing that happened to me. You know, I wanted to go to the toilet, you know, and you have to bring a candle. It's an outdoor loo. The floor moved. There were so many cockroaches that I held in my wee, went back to bed, you know what I mean? And didn't move. So, you know, this is like my story that I wanted to tell the class, and I wanted the class to be like, woo, you know, and there wasn't Google then. And the teacher said, you know, I either had to sort of tell the truth or go outside the classroom door. And what would happen is when you go outside the classroom door, the head teacher would walk along the corridors to get all the naughty kids, round them all up, bring them to like the head office, and then you get in trouble. So I was like, I'm going outside the classroom door. But I didn't stay outside the classroom door. I ran out of the school, climbed over the fence, climbed over Mavis's wall, and went home and got my dad. And that's the kind of kid I was. And there was that thing of, that's why, you know, when I called Boris Johnson a lion, I got chucked out of Parliament. That's why, I'm sure we'll get to that.
I was going to get there.
But that's why sort of that word is very, like, I don't use that sort of frivolously. And that's why I don't like also to be called a liar, because it brings back all of those memories from being a kid.
Really good. So I think you kind of went, kind of mentioned about, obviously, you calling Boris Johnson a liar, which actually got you in a bit of trouble and being kicked out. But in the end, we all found out he was a liar.
2 years
Right?
later.
2 years later.
That's how slow, like the wheels of parliament and democracy works. It took them a whole bloody 2 years, you know. And then no, I know you're going to ask me, did anyone apologize to me? No, they didn't apologize. They didn't say, Dawn, you were right. And I had to be sort of magnanimous, because it's not the dumb thing to sort of stand up in parliament and say, I told you so.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard thing for me to do. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about how, obviously, you know, about cockroaches don't fly, and actually that is a really powerful part in your book. What other sort of things would you say during your childhood, moments in your childhood, that's actually shaped your politics today and your overview of politics?
So I think, so my dad was what you'd call a socialist before I even knew what that meant. And the first time that kind of came to life was, again, at school, when Margaret Thatcher got rid of the milk at school. I don't know if anyone's old enough when you had free milk at school and a slice of apple. I hated that milk, man. It was a big, thick cream on top. I mean, you know, I don't drink milk now. I don't like milk, but I hated it. But when it disappeared, when the school, I was really happy. So, and I was like, great, I don't have to drink that milk anymore. And, you know, my dad told me off and said, it's not about you. It's, you know, there's other kids that maybe that's the only chance they get to have milk. And it's not about you. I was still really confused, but, you know, because I was still just, you know, happy that I couldn't have milk. So all of those little incidences, I think, well, I know, molded who I am today. And sometimes you don't realize it. You don't realize that standing in your truth is important. You know, you don't realize that if somebody's telling you that you're a liar and you know that you're not a liar, that it's important that you don't give in just because you want to save face. You know, I could have, you know, I had tears in my eyes. I could have just gone back and sat down in class, but I knew I was telling the truth. And I think as you get older, you realize the importance of that. And you realize the importance of, and if you haven't got the words, because I was a kid, and this was a teacher, an adult, if you haven't got the words, you need to find someone who has got the words, who's going to come in and back you up. And I think those are life lessons in knowing who you've got in your corner, knowing who's got your back, you know, and knowing who's going to be there in your time of need. And so all of those things adds to that, really.
I think what you're saying, and especially in your book, is that community, family definitely has a good foundation in your upbringing in terms of, you know, up to date, what you've achieved, and actually building that sort of resilience within yourself as well. How would you say that really shows up on your toughest day in Westminster? How does that show up, and how do you pull strength, should I say?
Yeah,
from that.
So, well, the thing is this, in Westminster, they say you don't make friends in politics, which in the main is kind of true, right? Everybody's ready to stab you in the back or do your job better, you know, or whisper behind your back. But occasionally you will, and Jovan can testify to this. Jovan's like, yeah, you know. But you do make friends, and there are people that you can talk to. And sometimes there's people you talk to and people don't know you talk to them, you know. So, but in my toughest times in Parliament, I would probably say, it's outside of Parliament. I think when you're in the midst of crisis, you're not going to find the solution in that crisis. You have to step outside of that, and you have to find your solution, your space, and your peace. And you won't find it while there's crazy going on. So when to come back to being thrown out of Parliament, we're calling Boris Johnson a liar. So I was expecting, so I told my office that I was going to call him a liar, that I had enough. And my office was like, you can't do that. I was like, I don't care. I've had enough. I wasn't expecting, so I was expecting to be thrown out of the chamber. I wasn't expecting to be told to leave the Houses of Parliament, to walk straight out sort of onto the street, do not pass go, straight out. And I didn't realize that was going to be my punishment. And it was like, are you going to leave of your own accord, or do we need to escort you out? Now, I was like, shit, you know what I mean? Like, thank God I got my house keys on me. I'm like, how am I going to get out? That was really quite, and I actually couldn't turn to, anyway, so my party, they didn't want to know me. So there's nobody came to my rescue and say, Dawn, are you okay? Because they were more concerned that I'd broken the rules, I'd broken the parliamentary rules. So they weren't concerned that I'd called something out that everybody else should call out. So there was nobody that I could turn to. So I turned to my friend, who I knew would love it anyway, because she loves a drama. And I'm like, and the press was hounding me, and I didn't do it for the press. So I didn't do any, I didn't go out, I could have been all over all the media, but I didn't do that. That wasn't the reason why I did it. I did one bit to Kamara with byline, and then I was like, I need to go into hiding until this all closes down. And she was like, right, I got you. And she came and got me, took me to a private members club, and that was it. You can't take pictures or anything like that in a private members club. So, you know, I went into hiding for a few hours, had some nice food and drink while it all calmed down.
And that was that.
And that was that. So sometimes you won't find it like in the chaos. There was no one there. And it was only 24 hours later when it went viral and everybody chimed in and said, well, actually, he is a liar. Then I got a call from my party. Then they put out an email asking people for money, you know, on the back of like my hard work. You know, they did a fundraising campaign, which is outrageous. But anyway, it was only then. So, but it also shows you that, you know, when you're on the up, you know, success has many, you know, what is it? Success has many children. Many. Well, anyway, it will come to me. But lots of people will say I was a part of that success when you're successful. But when you're not, that's where you need the proper people who've got your back.
You need your core people.
You need your core people.
You need your core people. Yeah. And in that core people, what does it feel like being the third Black female MP elected to Westminster? What did that feel like for you, being that person? And talk us through your political career. How did that come about?
So I didn't really want to be a politician. It wasn't really my thing. I was a trade union official first. Well, I was a computer programmer first. That's my background. And then I was a trade union official. And it wasn't really something, because I thought, well, nobody likes politicians. And also, there wasn't anyone that looked like me, to talk like me. I'm like, grew up in East London. So I didn't really think, I thought you had to be sort of male, pale and stale, you know, to be a politician. And so, and obviously there was Diane Abbott, you know, but she kind of speaks posher. You know, she wears pearls, with a bit of an accent. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh yeah. So
not like you.
It wasn't really like me. And you know, and I'm a bit of a rebel. Right. So I didn't really think it was my thing, but then, you know, I got persuaded. And sometimes also, you know, that thing, like as a woman, you have to be asked like more than once to do something, because you're like, oh, I can't do it because I haven't got this or I haven't got that, or, you know, and like guys in general, generalizing, will just be like, yeah, I'll do it, you know, without even the second thought. And then I'll fill in the gaps later. And so when I was elected, I thought, great. So when I was elected, so the journey hasn't been easy, right? And what I say is, I don't lose, I learn. And the first time I stood was in Hackney. And I came into the race late. And I didn't really know what I was doing, right? But then I got the hang of it. I knew I like people and I like communicating with people. And so at the end of that, obviously I didn't win, but I learned a lot about the process and how it works and what you need to do next time. I learned from the person who won. I learned from the person that probably should have won, but didn't because of the mistakes they made. And so I learned. So when I stood again, I stood again in Newham, and that was where I was living. And so I had a group of people that followed me from my first campaign who was really supportive. But then there were still a lot of people saying, you're never going to win this because you're not the chosen candidate, right? And they had their chosen candidate. And they had a candidate that they wanted for whatever political reasons that we won't go. It is in the book, but
Get the book.
there's a little bit missed out, but you'll fill in the gaps. You'll get what I mean. And then, but I said, I was like, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to do this. And my union, the GMB, like helped in terms of saying like you can still do your job, and you can still work on your campaign. Now, I won't talk about all the skullduggery because we ain't got time. But I officially lost that selection by 4 votes. And there was a big football match on that day as well. And like everybody was shocked. And then I was like, you know what? Politics isn't for me. I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to Jamaica. I'm having a holiday. Leave me alone. I want to be drinking pina coladas on the beach in my bikini. So, and then Paul Boateng decided he was going to go to South Africa. And then I got all these calls. So because I came so close the second time, really I won. But anyway, because I came, it's being recorded. I was really came so edited. Because I came. Okay, allegedly. No, we are in a lawyer's firm.
Chatham rules apply. Chatham rules apply.
So, because I came so close, it woke other people up. And so they were like, Dawn, you've got to go for Brent. You've got to go for Brent. And I'm like, no, I'm good. But it was enough when my union was like, Dawn, you have to go for Brent. You can use our offices, because I ran my campaign out of my bedroom. And they were like, you can use our offices. We're going to help you, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, there's one thing I know how to do, and that's to work hard, right? And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. Now, I still had those people telling me I'm not going to do it because they had their chosen candidate. And their chosen candidate was... I can't even remember his name now. But anyway, it was the Prime Minister's special advisor was their chosen candidate, right? And he was like a superstar. He'd be walking down the road, there was photographers and all of this and all that. And so that was their chosen candidate. And so they're like, Dawn, you're not going to beat the machine. Right? That is all around there. So I'm like, okay. But I can do what I know how to do. And that's and I learned. I learned from my other 2 attempts. And so all I did was knock on the doors of members because it's the members that can. And who's a Labour Party member here? You know, okay, real. So all it, and Newham. And all I did was knock on the doors of members, because that's all you need to do. It's a numbers game. It's if you get more than the person behind you, then you've won. And so while he's there, ITV, Channel 4, going down the road, all of this, I'm knocking on doors till like 10 o'clock at night. After then, people don't open the doors to you. And you run the risk of losing votes. So, you know, so on election day, after the hustings, I won with over 50% of the vote.
Wow.
And the establishment were floored at the side of the stage because they just couldn't believe that I'd done it, because I was just quietly went about my business doing it. So it's not been an easy route to get into Parliament. And then when I'm in Parliament, and there was Diane Abbott and there was Una King, and Una King lost to Callaway. And so when I went in, it was just me, myself and Diane Abbott. And so I went through all of that to get into Parliament, right? And nobody, a lot of people were calling me Diane. They couldn't tell us apart. You know, not like we look anything like, I don't wear pearls for a start, but not like we look anything like each other. They couldn't tell us apart. And it was just ridiculous. And everywhere I went, you know, people were asking me for my pass, whereas all the white MPs, nobody was asking them for their passes. But for me, it was like I was made to feel like I didn't belong. And then there's a couple of stories where I talk about when the division bell goes and we need to vote, we have 7 minutes to get from wherever we are to the lobbies to vote. And so the lifts are reserved for MPs in that time, because we've got to get to places quickly. And I went into this members only lift, and these MPs went, oh, this lift really isn't for cleaners. Oh. And I was like, I mean, I was busy because I'm in my head thinking about what I've got to do next. And then I thought, oh, they're talking about me. So first of all, I said, and I've got a bit of a potty mouth, so I can swear, right? But first of all, I said, like, number one, there's nothing wrong with being a cleaner. Like, if that's your job, it's an honest profession. And like, you're rude and disrespectful. And like, number two, I'm an MP just like you. And I've got a fucking big majority, bigger than yours. And then walked out the lift. You know what I mean? But it was like such a shock, because I earned my right to be there, but yet still I'm having to battle all of this. And there's another case where I talk about where going on to the terrace with my team, when my team, they used to call my team like the United Colors of Benetton, because like everybody worked for me. You know, I had a young Muslim woman in a hijab, you know, a black guy, white guy, everybody worked for me. And we were going to like a members only section where you can bring guests. And this MP actually stood up and went, "Where do you think you're going?" And I'm like, no. And no, he said, "Where do you think you're going and who are you?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" Do you know what I mean? Who are you? And then I thought, I'm not going to deal with this, because it was a team member's birthday and I just wanted them to have a good time. So I was like, everybody just go sit down. But they were upset, and my team were upset. And, you know, the lawyers will tell you, you have a responsibility as well to your staff. So my staff were upset, so I had a responsibility to them. And what I also realized is that, you know, especially when you're Black, when you're female, your tolerance level of certain abuse gets higher and higher, because if you have to cope with all the shit during the day, you can't get on with the rest of the things you've got to do. So a lot of stuff you park to one side, you put it, because you just like, can't really deal with that. So anyway, I said to them, look, after we have lunch, because I hate cold food, after we have lunch, I'll go and deal with him, right? So after we had lunch, I went up to him and I said, what makes you think that you could talk to me in that manner? And he said, this place is going to rack and ruins. They're letting anybody in nowadays. And I was like, right, who are you? Who are you? What's your name? He was big enough to mouth off at me like that, but not to tell me his name. And so can you imagine, we had to go back to the office and we have like a yearbook. So can you imagine having to go through like over 600 white men to find this one white man that abused me on the terrace? And do you know, my staff found him. I was like, are you sure that's him? They found him. And Parliament didn't do anything because there's no HR in Parliament. So you have to say it's the whips. So the whips say, well, it's up to his constituents whether he gets re-elected. So you haven't got any structure within Parliament to deal with that. It's a lot better now than it was, but you really haven't got any structure. So I went to the press, and the press went to him and asked him for a comment, and he didn't deny it. And he said something like, these people or those people feel like, and so he didn't deny it at all. David Heathcote Amory is his name. You want to Google him when you go back. And so it's always a struggle and a battle. But I've got to the stage. So I had lots of grey suits, and I used to kind of conform to what was expected in a way. Do you know what I mean? My impression. And somebody said to me that I'm too colourful, you're too loud, you're always too something. Do you know what I mean? Too young, you're too old, you're too skinny, too fat. Anyway, and they said, if I want to be taken seriously, I need to wear more Marks and Spencer suits. And, I need to tone it down. And that's when I said, there's a chapter called The Lime Green Suit. And that's when I was like, I'm going to buy myself the brightest suit I can find in the shop, and I'm going to wear it to Parliament and wear it in the, but the thing is this, and I said, you're always going to stand out. I'm always going to stand out. I'm a Black woman. I'm going to stand out, especially in spaces that are not designed for me. Parliament wasn't designed for women, let alone Black people. So I'm always going to stand out. So I may as well stand out. Why try and fit in? And so my thing is, I no longer try to conform or fit in. I'm going to be who I am, authentically me, and stand out. And you like it or you hate it, it's up to you. That's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
I forgot the question, but
that just really sums everything up. And I think also, just to pitch in as well, that Dawn has also got some books at the back. So she will be able to sign the books for you, and you can purchase the book and find out a lot more about in terms of what she's talking about at the moment. And I think that, being a Black female, you've just mentioned, in any space where it's not really designed for you or for us, it can be quite sometimes challenging, and thinking, do I have to conform? Do I have to speak this way? Do I have to do this? I think the most powerful thing that you just mentioned is being yourself, because everybody else is taken. You can only be yourself. That's and true. Own your authenticity, and just live your truth. I think that's really important.
Because when you and of course there's code switching, but that's fine. We do that. You're different with your friends and you are with your family than you are at work. But if you contort yourself and change yourself so much at work that you can't be who you are, when you go home, that's a lot of stress that you're carrying in your body that you're then going to have to release in some way.
That's very true. You've been also quite open in terms of your health journey, your health challenge with breast cancer. Having to go through that, what has that made you think about sort of health within the NHS, and what health should look like, and be maybe more kinder with regards to the NHS care quality, and some of the challenges that currently we're facing within the NHS?
So I was diagnosed with stage 1 cancer during COVID. So it was a very kind of difficult time to sort of cope with the cancer, not having sort of people around you, and all of that. And going into so when I was diagnosed, I got the call in the car from the breast cancer nurse, and I was outside a school going to a school assembly. And when I got the call, and she said I needed to come back for more investigation, I was like, oh my God, have I got cancer? And then basically, cut a long story short, I went in to do this school assembly, and then I burst into tears in front of all the kids, which was like quite traumatic for them and me. But during COVID, seeing what our doctors and nurses were going through in real time was just incredible. I mean, it took 24 hours to take my blood one day because they didn't have anyone to take my blood. And then I remember asking a nurse, are you okay? And she just burst into tears. And I was like, we are destroying the NHS and all of these people that are working so hard to keep it functioning. And so it was a real eye-opener for me. I started a campaign, obviously, when I came out. And I also started a campaign to find the missing million mammograms, because during COVID, lots of women missed their appointments. And so they estimated that there was around 8,000 to 10,000 women walking around with breast cancer and they didn't know it. So, but going through the whole thing, I mean, I was in intensive care. There's a lot that happened, but also the diversity within the NHS was incredible. So, yeah, it was just an incredible time. And, you know, I'm pleased to say that, you know, I'm still on meds, but I am sort of cancer free.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done. On that note.
Yeah. I guess I'll kind of come in over here. And firstly to say thank you, because Dawn throughout my campaign was very supportive, checked in on me all the time, in what was quite a difficult start to any political career, going against Nigel Farage in an area that hadn't voted Labour since the 1950 general election. It was quite a challenge. And we evidently saw that was a part of the country that, for the first time in British history, decided to elect Nigel Farage. So that might tell you some of the people that I was up against on the doorstep. So it was quite an interesting one. So thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. And I actually think you did a fantastic job.
Yeah,
phenomenal
you
job.
definitely did.
And you're definitely the best dressed candidate.
I mean, this is what I was going to say. I mean, that authentic point, it's so true, because at least for me, I was the only, and not to be too identitarian about it, but I was the only young black person that contested an election at the last election. There was about 2,700 candidates of at least the three main political parties, and yet of a demographic of about 1.3 million people, somehow I was the only person of my group that could contest a parliamentary seat. And in all of that, I realized, well, I couldn't be anything but myself. So all of the clothes that I had from Deptford Market and Amberburn and wherever else were what made it to GQ. And so I can't really complain. So it was very interesting. So yeah, no, thank you to Dawn. But I guess turning to the events of today, where things are obviously quite interesting, and over the weekend we've seen the party move in a different direction, and politics more broadly seems to have changed, even in the space of a couple of days. The deputy leadership election, this time about 5 years ago, you were getting ready to, well, you were standing, you were one of the candidates for the deputy leadership. And I remember supporting you then, going to your hustings and everything else.
That was hard, man.
That was hard.
Hard, but it was an interesting time. And actually, what I learned, right? And what I discovered is how much money it takes for internal selection. You would never believe how much money you need to run an internal selection in the Labour Party. You know, to ask for the names of Labour Party members is £5,000. To get the email addresses for Labour Party members is £5,000. To get the phone number for Labour Party members is £5,000. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
So I guess, why did you not put your name in the ring? And what do you think of the... You've done it before, why not again?
No, I mean, this time, I mean, my priority is London. So I've got my eye on the prize of London Mayor. And so I'm not going to be distracted from that and sort of in any way sort of dilute my campaign to be Mayor of London. So, and it's so funny, even today, I sat with some MPs and they go, okay, so we're going to vote for you. I said, I'm not standing. That many more times, I'm not standing. Exactly, they didn't believe me that I wasn't standing. So I'm not standing. And I did it once. And I'm glad lots of people sort of regret not voting for me and will vote for me this time. But they can save that and just support me for my mayoral campaign.
Yeah.
And that's it. And sometimes you've just got to focus on what you want and put your energies to that.
And well, you've been in Parliament a long time. Why now to be Mayor of London, or at least to be the candidate for Mayor of London? Why not 15 years ago, 10 years ago? What do you think?
I think I would have probably the last time I would have considered it, but Sadiq wanted to stand again under a Labour government for the first time and be sort of a Labour mayor under a Labour government, and he made history, first mayor to ever serve 3 terms, and so that's why really, and Sadiq's a really good friend, but you know. The next time.
I know, yeah. Well, you were talking about those people. Well, that's how it goes.
I'm talking about it. I wouldn't do anything behind it.
So I guess, given that you've got your plans, with your own plans, what does a Dawn Butler manifesto look like for London? What could we expect, or what could we hope for, Mayor of London, Dawn Butler?
Well, I can't give you sort of all my ideas.
No, of course.
1, because they're still developing. 2, because I did that once with deputy leader, sat down with somebody for a whole hour, telling them about my plans. And then somebody else, he gave it to someone else, gave him all my plans and my ideas. I sat there at Hutton thinking, what? That's my idea. Word for word.
Really, yeah.
Like, learned that, never made that mistake. But what I can say, it will be innovative and it will be inclusive. And so my whole campaign will be around bringing us all together in London, being proud Londoners. You know, and I think sometimes, like, it's underestimated just how proud Londoners are. And I just think I want to blow that up to a really big scale. And so everybody feels invested in our London.
That is really important. And I guess I'm just going to turn to maybe speak for a generation of Londoners who may experience London in a different way. So, I mean, I live in Brixton and you can see gentrification ongoing. House prices now are touching, literally across my house, £1 million for a 4-bedroom townhouse, which is pretty standard. They're everywhere all over London.
That's cheap, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have £1 million. I mean, if you want to buy me one, if she wants to buy me one, that's fine. If it's cheap for you.
Hoxton, they've got like 3 bedrooms for over £1 million in Hoxton.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm looking at it and I think I'm in my 20s at the start of my life. There are London's a very young city and there's a housing crisis. People are concerned about getting their phones nicked when they're walking around. There just seems to be a lot of change. AI obviously is a massive thing. It's changing people's jobs, graduates coming out of university. They may not enter the traditional jobs of an internship and then going into something else. What do you make of that? And then how does that match up to kind of your idea as to how London should be?
Well, I've got a few campaigns I've been running. One is around mobile phone thefts and getting the industry to take it seriously. So phone thefts is part of the industry's business model, right? Because if your phone gets stolen, what do? You go buy another one. And so it's millions and millions of pounds to them. So there's no real desire to put like a switch off in there to make the phone, you know, unusable. So we've got to hold them more to account. So that's currently what I've been doing and trying to change legislation around that. Also, gambling. I've got a gambling campaign trying to rid our high streets and some high streets of the proliferation of gambling establishments in the, in areas where people can least afford it. And so all of that is about tidying up and cleaning up our high streets, making it better. Because a high street during COVID, a high street was a lifeline for many people. You'd go to your local shops, and that's where you pass somebody, at a distance, but where you're allowed to. But, having good high streets, local high streets, it's important for community, right? And for the fabric of community. So all of that's vital and important. And with AI, which we use like collectively for everything, but with AI, we're never going to stop the advancement of AI and the speed that it's going in other countries and what they're doing. But what we can do is put guardrails around how it's used and what it's used for. And that is really important. And so I'm not quite sure, I don't know if you agree, but I'm not quite sure we've got the legislation right. I think it's too much of a light touch. I don't think there's enough guardrails, even around military use. Do you know what I mean? We have to have strict guardrails. And yes, it's true, other countries might not abide by those guardrails, but that's why we have international law. So, I think that there's a lot that we have to do domestically, but also internationally around AI. And we've got to understand it and understand how to use it, understand how to navigate it, and also develop critical thinking. And I think the other thing that's so important is connectivity, human connectivity. All of this, people being stuck in front of screens, computers, people falling in love with their AI.
It's quite strange.
I mean, I've got a friend and he doesn't do anything without consulting his AI buddy. What should I cook for dinner?
Yeah, just
So, but that's a lack of connectivity, and that's one thing. So there's this argument around whether AI is sentient or not, or whether it will be sentient or not. I personally don't believe it will be, but I do think what we have to do is talk about AI intelligence as different from human intelligence and everything that makes us human. So all of our gut reactions to things, that doesn't just come by chance. That is years of your bringing in from your childhood, so that is very different. And yes, you can program to a certain extent, but it's a different type of intelligence. So I feel we shouldn't confuse the two. We should have that demarcation and we should talk about it in those terms. And that way you kind of are able to live with it, because they'll get a time, because we haven't got enough resources for where everybody thinks AI is going to go. The amount of energy that it takes, like quantum computing, amazing things, the advancement in health with quantum computing, medicine, how we're going to find cures and treat illnesses a lot faster. Personalized healthcare is going to be changed like exponentially by AI, but there's still resources, finite resources, is still going to be the thing that curbs it all.
So when it comes to its integration in public services, which we're starting to see, I saw a lot of conversation around Notting Hill Carnival and the use of AI around that point, or in the health service, where there are biases towards particular people, women, ethnic minorities, people with disabilities. There are a whole range of challenges that AI presents to people. How does government respond to that? I think outside of the mayor, you said we don't have the legislation particularly perfect yet, and it is accelerating at such a pace. How do we kind of get a grip of this? Because I think for many people, it can be seen as something to be fearful of and less of something to be embraced. And London is becoming a bit of a tech centre in the world. London, I mean, AI, I think, was developed in the UK.
Yeah, which I love. I would have like a Station F in London, which is like in France, the tech hub. I'd have like a huge tech hub in London, and encourage all of these new businesses and imagination in. But in regards to being fearful, so I say this, I say like, I compare like people's interest in AI to like 4 of my friends, right? So like one of them who you can tell them about a good night out and they really won't care. They want to stay home and watch Netflix. So they've got no interest at all. And then you've got another friend who we're like, okay, I'll come with you on this night out. but they're a little bit miserable, or they'll like dance a bit, maybe drink a bit, maybe even. And then you've got another friend who gets completely drunk. Do you know what I mean? And be like, yeah, I love everything AI. Give it to me. Give me all the drink, all the food, all the. And then you've got me, and I am the sober one, making sure I'm going to get everybody home safely. and that is my attitude to AI. I'm like, I could get carried away. I have the potential to get carried away. I like a good drink, a good food, a good dance. But actually, my job here tonight is to make sure you get home safely. And that's my role in this AI debate. So, and I think it's vital that, like, when I say to people, so when I was on the committee and I talked about biases, and people are like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, the fact is, we haven't even dealt with all of the discrimination and biases of the past. Right? Biases. All of the misogyny, the racism, women not getting a job because they're of childbearing age. You know what I mean? Like, or they're menopausal, or men not getting a job because they've got a Cockney accent, and how that's viewed, or Black people not getting a job because they're Black. So we haven't even dealt with all the biases and discrimination of the past. How on earth are we going to deal with the biases of the future? Because you still deny that there's bias. And so I had to kind of break it right down and say, listen, BMI, body mass index, was actually developed by a mathematician who wanted to establish the average size of the average white man, right? And no disrespect to the white men in the audience today, but you wouldn't even fit the description of the average size of the white man 2,000 years ago when it was developed. So it's a completely out of date metrics, but it's still used, but it has a lot of bias in there. Do you know what I mean? It's bias against the men of today, it's bias against women, it's bias against people of color, right? So to have that embedded in an AI system that then determines whether you're going to have an operation or not is accelerating a bias. And so, and you have people now who will believe whatever gets churned out. They'll be like, well, the computer says it's not, AI is not a calculator. Do you know what I mean? It's completely different. So you can't just believe what's there. So we should be concerned. And that's why the only thing we can control is the guardrails.
Yeah. I guess just one final question then before we take it to the floor. Parliament is seen as a very outdated institution. And I think it's becoming even more outdated given how fast technology is evolving. And we're seeing not just kind of AI, but TikTok and social media and all of these kind of facets of a new democracy that we're entering. Do you think AI can be integrated into kind of parliamentary affairs? And if you do, how should that look like?
So I had a meeting on that today. So I'm part of the Speaker's Commission on AI, and we're looking at AI and how we use it in Parliament, and stuff like helping with developing questions and things like that. That's going to be rolled out very soon. And so there's lots of ways it can be used. The debate is, and actually we might need some legal advice on this, is how much you have to sort of declare that you've used AI in your response or your letter and the implications of that. So we're kind of grappling with that. And the other thing that we're grappling with is how do we protect as politicians our image and our voice? Because 30 seconds of your voice, they can create fake video of you. So how do we protect that? And so those are kind of the big ticket areas that we're sort of grappling with at the moment. But yes, I mean, Parliament, there's some people in Parliament that still only want us to use like quill pens and paper. So it's a struggle.
I don't know.
It's a struggle.
I feel like we
have to move with the times. And we're talking about watermarking as well. So watermarking things so people can know if a video's been edited in any way. But there's lots of complications because, we'll do a big speech in Parliament and we only really want a clip because, people's attention span, they're not going to listen to all of it, are they?
Of course,
2 minutes, 2 seconds.
Yeah, I do find it interesting just because Parliament's been around the best part of 800 years, parliamentary democracy, and it's survived so many interesting, wonderful aspects of kind of history, global history and British history. But this seems like one of the few things that might stunt some of its kind of ability to...
Honestly, I had an argument with the Sergeant at Arms today because I posted a picture of myself in Parliament. And I had an argument with him today. And then it's a long story. And then I'm like, you do realise that Parliament's now televised.
Yeah. You can see what's going on.
It looks like from every angle because it's now televised. And so, you know, we have to move with the times. But anyway, that's a long story.
Thank you so much.
We will, what you call it, you'll see those pictures come out. Giving them time.
Thank you very much, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we've got a bit of Q&A at the end. I'm sure you would want to ask some probably burning questions, or you want to speak, you know, say something, or even just ask a question, really. We've got about maybe 5 minutes. We're going to try and squeeze in as much questions as possible. Please, just as a disclaimer, no long speeches, 30 seconds to the dot. We'll go to the no long speeches at all. If you want to say who you are, it's part of your 30 seconds. So just just so no long speeches, just because so we can get as many people as possible. But also while you're going through the Q&A, if you do want to get any of Dawn's book, which I think maybe each of you should, and have it signed. I have got my copy, by the way, so, and it's all signed. It makes a really good read. It makes a really good read. And you never know, when she becomes the Mayor of London, you would say, this is my book, that's Dawn signed for me. So just think about it from that perspective. We've got a roaming mic. So if you put your hands up, and then Emily would go and, so we'll take 2 questions at a time. So to give Dawn time to kind of respond back to you, if that's okay. Please don't be shy, put your hands up and just ask away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be really quick. I'm just going to go forward to your vision for London, and it sort of ties in with the AI debate, because I am not really an early adopter, but somebody that's quite enthused, eating a lot, of your analogy, and really worried about the social mobility aspect. So rather than sort of look at the dangers, I'm thinking of potentially of so many young Londoners not being left behind. What is your vision in terms of really maximizing opportunities in terms of social mobility, so that kids are fit for, are able to compete in the changing world?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi. How do we change the mind of people who vote for Farage?
How do we change the mind of people?
It's what I'm spending a lot of my time trying to do.
Okay.
Oh, you can chip in on that with Farage as well. AI, not just young people, AI, actually older people as well. I think this digital exclusion for older people really grates on me, because, why are we leaving out like a whole section of our community? But with younger people, I mean, they will be using AI and the internet in ways we don't know about. And so what we have to do is educate and communicate. And as I say, like, ensure that we have that that connection, because what makes us different is our human connection. And so what we don't want to do is isolate people, and we don't want to isolate young people. And that's why you have problems with mental health and all of this stuff, and suicide rates going up, especially with young men. So I think that the younger mind is obviously very pliable, very easy to take onto stuff. So there's ways that it can be done, but also making it interesting. So the good thing about education in AI is that you can have tailored education. So you can ask somebody, a kid, to do a sum, and then you can work out why they calculated or worked out the sum the way they did, even though long multiplication is very different when I did it at school. I'm like, I was like, I'll help you with your homework. Oh shit, what's that? So it's very different. So things move and modernize, but there's a way we can bring it all together. I don't think anybody has to be excluded. Yeah, yeah. And Farage. So in part, I think like Farage hasn't changed, right? He's always been that divisive character. How many iterations have there been of him? Do you know what I mean? Brexit, UKIP,
Brexit Party.
Yeah, I mean, so many iterations, right? And he's so many times he's tried and failed, right? And actually, I think the party let Jovan down. I don't think Farage needed to have won that, to be honest. And I think it's a very testing time for us, but not just in this country, but globally, with the rise of nationalism, the rise of the far right, the rise of misogyny. They're all interconnected. So all of these people, it's not the first time that they're meeting. You know what I mean? Like they couldn't have just met yesterday and have had so much in common. They've met on the dark web. They've met in very many different guises, right? So first of all, the only way to stop the hate is to love and communicate, right? So we're on the front line of that. So we can't afford to go into this hate narrative that they have and that they're developing. And so we have to understand our responsibility to be anti-racist and not just, I don't like what he's saying. And that's really important because that's the only way we stop them. And the Labour Party, I feel, has a responsibility. So where the Labour Party came into power, and yes, they inherited 14 years of like Tory mess, the hope was missing. So instead of just talking about it, we needed hope. And what's actually happening? And so the young people who are joining Reform or Andrew Tate, the interesting thing about it is that they're reaching out on social media for connection. And then they're being caught in that by Reform, by Farage, and then they're exploiting that. And so they're like, oh, great, I belong now. I belong to a gang now. They're understanding me. So we can be that connection. We just have to make sure we're there first and be like, actually, instead of belonging to this gang that wants to go and burn down hotels, you can belong to this gang who wants to eat apple pie. You know what I mean? So I think that is the only way, and we have to be honest about the conversation. And we shouldn't scapegoat people, because when you scapegoat one, it just leads it easier to scapegoat another. And this conversation is happening in the backdrop of the rise of white supremacy, right? I mean, Trump is the president of the United States of America. And you know what? I just realized earlier was coming that. Did you see that letter that he wrote? So, and he outlined the body of a woman. Right. I mean, this is a really sick mind, right? And I only realized that his signature was supposed to indicate her pubic hair. I mean, he's a sick guy. And they thought that's funny. And these are the people who are now in charge. And the thing with AI, back to AI, kind of all things go back to AI. This is why I don't feel that we should have billionaires in the world. Because at the moment, it's controlled by a very small group of people. Our social media, our X, by a very small group of people, they've got the money. And so this is why other countries like India, like Africa's continent, they're developing their own AI, 5G, and they will be successful because they don't want anything to do with America and what they're doing. And so there's a lot to unpack there, but it's all interconnected. But ultimately, the bottom line is we are the front line of stopping that rise of hate, racism, misogyny. It's the good people. because there's not more of them. You know, you keep saying, oh, the country wants this. No, it's not the country wants this. It's just your little group who you've got angry. And some of them can be saved. Not all of them, but some of them can be saved. Enough of them can be saved. Yeah.
Shall I give it my brief? I'll be very brief,
Sorry,
only because I've spent the last 18 months considering this, because there's something particularly...
So one thing. Farage, which I'm going to try and get into Parliament, is who was the comedian that said this? Is the juice at the bottom of the bin when you take your bin bag? So I need to start using farage in our dictionary, just so that it's
so what a perfect name. Yeah, well, I don't know. There's something about standing next to a man who's the antithesis of your politics and losing to him at about 4 o'clock in the morning, that it kind of does something to you, not least to pontificate on why you lost to a man 18 months later. I've kind of got 3 very quick reasons as to why I think people vote for Farage. And they range from kind of some politics stuff, something else. Firstly, I mean, he's a fantastic orator. He's deeply charismatic. He's quite an affable character, and he's somebody who people see something in themselves in. And I think that's a real shame because, at least from what I see, I feel like Parliament's lost its oratory capacity. It used to be this place where people would parlay, debate, discuss sophisticated, complex ideas and do so with a level of respectability, and convey, I think, the best of a kind of Britishness that we all kind of champion. We don't see the kind of Tony Benns or Peter Shaws or any of those kind of people in Parliament anymore. Rather, we see kind of public affairs experts who know how to do a couple of things. At times, not everybody, but at times you see people who probably need to improve their oratory and parliamentary capacity to best represent all of us. That would be my argument. And then I think it's a bit cheap. I would say I kind of thought that disaffection was this kind of view, at least from what I saw in Clacton, where a lot of people obviously voted for Farage based upon a sense of disaffection. But I don't think it's as bloviated as that. I would say kind of the problem is politics more broadly, that no one's provided a response to these people. So to me, the alarm bells were sent in 2016 when the country decided to vote to leave the European Union. And that should have been a wake-up call for the 2 main parties that for so long something had been going wrong. So much so that up to 50% of the population didn't feel attached to this massive organization that we'd been a member of for the last 40 years. And you see that, I mean, when I was knocking on doors in Clacton, it's the 2nd eldest constituency in the country. It's one of the least diverse areas. It's one of the poorest areas in the UK. The UN investigated the poverty that existed. It has one of the highest levels of disability. And I found it so regretful and quite hurtful that within the first couple of months of Labour coming into office, we'd taken their winter fuel money, and we can talk about the millionaires in Hampstead who have the privilege to heat their houses, but many people that I met in Clacton did not have that privilege. Many of these people were quite poor, living on the coast, living still in housing built from the 1940s and couldn't heat their homes, didn't have access to the internet, and yet a Labour government was willing to take away from the poorest people. I found that absolutely reprehensible. There was also a high level of disability, one of the oldest constituencies in the country, and yet you could still find it justifiable and a Labour thing to do to take away their disability money. So it's not the disaffection that was the problem, it was the fact that politics no longer provided any answers to many of these people's problems, and there was no fundamental critique. The critique that many people experience in the fact that their bills were going up, they didn't have access to proper public services, things around education, health, all the things that many people in London take for granted. In places like Clacton, in many places that will vote for reform, they didn't have any of this access in the way that we would understand it. So the critique wasn't really there, and the critique hasn't been formulated by any of the mainstream parties. So I fear until a proper political philosophy has been developed for the 21st century, an ideological one, a conceptual one, and a kind of rhetorical one, Farage is only going to do very well because there is an absence of that from the mainstream parties. That's a huge problem. And then I can't remember my final point.
And final point was Farage.
Oh, Farage.
Yeah. Get up to a dictionary and it'll be a word.
Okay, so I think we've had.
Got one right.
Oh, you've got. Oh, we wanted to. Oh, you've got 2. Okay, so quick. Go ahead.
Mm. The topmost public service, I suppose the NHS, because it's so huge, but it has to be done with caution, and it has to be done with privacy at its core as well. I'm not a fan of Palantir having access to our data and the contracts that we've got with the NHS. So that would be my caution, but I think there would be a lot of good that can be done.
Okay. Left one, go ahead. I think this.
Yeah, well, I'll bring it over, and then we'll have to wrap up. I'm afraid.
Yeah, we've got to leave. We want to take a group photo as well, and then.
Just a quick question. You said something about going up for a mayoral candidate, yeah? Mm-hmm. And we have Sadiq Khan on seat right now. And I spoke to him one-to-one about, looking at the rise of violence in London. I see you as a person that's very vibrant. I see you as a person that's very cheerful and very communicative. But my question to you is, because I run a charity for young people all over London. So my question to you is, if you're being elected as the mayor of London, would you really consider putting the youths first, the younger generation first, like making it a priority, like serious mentorship, consistent mentorship to get the mind off the streets, get the minds off the streets, like we're here for the AI stuff and like teaching them stuff that they need to do to get the mind off the streets from knife crime, all these things going on in London. London is no more safe for people to walk around. So what I'm saying is, if you are the mayor of London today, would you really focus on our young people, younger generation, to help them, to keep them off the streets from indulging from knife crime and all that nonsense going on?
There's a lot of work that needs to be done. I was actually the Minister for Young Citizens and Youth Engagement. And it was the Tories and the Lib Dems coalition that got rid of that ministerial position. And I ran the largest consultation any government's ever done. And nobody's beaten the consultation that I ran in regards to engaging young people. And at that time, young people were fully engaged, and there was a lot of money invested in youth centres, for example, which made a huge difference. And we spent £5 million in each youth centre that we put up in each area. When the coalition government came in, they closed all of that down, which was extremely short-sighted. Soon after that, you had riots, you had like young people on the streets in the summer. And so that disconnect in what's needed, and there's loads of different things. There's not one solution to the problem. There's many solutions to the problem. So it will be a case of carrying all of that through and having like lots of different strategies to make that work. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Let's look around. Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. I think one thing I would want all of us to take away is when people change, politics change. What do I mean by that? I think earlier on, Dawn had mentioned how many of you are a Labour Party member, councillor, or whatever it is. I think only a fraction of us. I think one of the things that I always say is that we need to get engaged in politics, however you look at politics, because all of the decisions that have been made that affect our daily lives is actually being decided by somebody else within politics. So we need to make sure that we're part of a party, engage in terms of knowing what's happening around you in your area, in terms of your party. I am a Labour Party member. I have been in the Labour Party for years, and that's my bag. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I am saying I'm advocating for you to be a member of a party. It's easy to say, oh, I'm going to vote for this party when there's an election. That's good. But I think we need to take the next step. How, whatever Dawn has said today, is there something that's resonated with you? Is that something that's challenged you? Are you looking to volunteer? Are you looking to make a difference within your sphere? Make that next step and be part of a membership of the Labour Party I would advocate for, but whatever party resonates with you. So I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you very much for your time, and especially where with the train strikes and everything, we want to do a big, massive photo. So we're going to get someone to stand here, and then we do the photo with you all standing up, 1, 2, and then
just before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to thank all of you for coming along, but most importantly, to thank our amazing panelists today. So Dawn, so our special guest, thank you for sharing such inspirational stories today. I think one of the things I'm taking away from this is it's really fantastic to have someone with your experience in Parliament to be the different person that you explained, and you shared such an incredible personal story that really touched me today to hear that. And it's good to know that not everyone in Parliament is the same. So I'm looking forward to reading that book. And I think giving that book to my daughters as well, because I want them to read your story. And to, the youth has been kind of like a key element of what you've discussed on this stage today as well. So I think it's been very inspirational at many levels. And I think Mayor has a nice ring to it, Mayor Dawn Butler. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing you run for that campaign, and we can all say we were in the room and we saw it when it happened. So good luck with that campaign. I'm really looking forward to reading that book. So just a reminder, the book is at the back there if people do want to grab a book and get it signed by Dawn. If you've got time to sign that, I think it'd be fantastic. Thank you again to Ashurst for hosting us today and for the drinks and nibbles. And also providing some legal advice. I think there have been a number of things that we're going to have to go and see them about, maybe some of the things on the record, and we have to dispose of that tape first of all. But Dawn, thank you again. That's been incredible. Thank you to Fatima for great questionings, and to Jovan as well for your questions and for your passion for setting that forth as well. It's been great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Good luck getting back on the trains.